GMGP, good morning, good people. Y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but y'all decided to wake up with us. You're sick. You're sick in the head. There's a lot of fantasy football shows out there, but I promise y'all, they not like us. Brock Bowers, you looked a little quicker than fast. What does that even mean? Redraft, dynasty, best ball, high stakes, we got you covered.
And that's MVS and Justin Watson.
With some of the dopest tools designed to help you cancel out the noise and dominate your leagues.
If there's a white wide receiver named Antoine, sign me up.
Maybe it's cultural. I don't know. In season or off season, rain, sleet, hail, and snow,
comma, semicolon, period, next sentence.
to bring you the most actionable and entertaining content on YouTube. You don't go buy the dip of on the Titanic.
Quarterback that you love, D-Bro. One of the best values in fantasy football.
Prop bets with my man Jay Rich.
Yes! Let's go!
So wipe the crust out of your eye, get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake y'all asses up with Ray
And Jay.
in the morning.
My God.
How good is
Dude.
he?
How good
Let's get it. GMGP. It is Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. Y'all decided to wake y'all asses up with me and my dog Jay Rich. And yes, you do see that I have the 1-0 Los Angeles Lakers King James jersey on. My Lakers getting it done last night. NBA back. Opening night dub against the Western Conference defending champs Timberwolves. Jay Rich, I'm feeling good today, baby. My Raiders, my Cowboys not giving me a lot to be excited about, but damn it, them Lakers looked all right last night. Who we got in the building? What's going down? Oh, come on, man. Flores, you're my dude. What are we doing, man? You can't be starting off the show talking about Lakers. Yuck, get out of here. Josh, we're trusting the Trinity. Time to get Rashad Bateman, damn it. And Josh has been all over those Ravens and Rashad Bateman for some time. And yes, it is playing out for Rashad Bateman right now. Still low volume pass offense, but very good with Lamar Jackson. What's going down, Patrick? My dog Marcus Myers in the building. Taylor, Jacob, Zach, Patrick Price, Zane, Dan Bennett, DT, Lillian, George. What's going down, everybody? Appreciate y'all being in the building. Jay, did you kill the music? Kill the music, kill the music. Appreciate everybody being here. We got a lot to talk about. Trade rumors going crazy. NBA is back. We got football this weekend. All 32 teams playing, no buys. So we got the full gamut. Just want to give you the housekeeping stuff really quickly. And I tweeted this out right before the show. There's a lot of y'all that play fantasy football, participate in this game, and you're looking for a place, a home, a community to talk about this shit, to learn, to grow. I'm telling you, there's no better place than DD. And Scott tweeted it out this morning. You see a screenshot here. Since the 17th of October, the past 6 days, in our private Discord community, we have dropped over 9 pieces of exclusive content, injury stuff from Jeff Mueller, trade, roster construction, Trinity report, detailed, in depth. Like, there's no better community. A lot of these people offering you one free bonus bullshit show that they record at the waking last hour that they barely put any time into. We're giving y'all like a full, legit menu of options. So go to patreon.com/allgas or go to ddfantasyfootball.com. Join the community, one of the best places to be. The people that pay the bills, Underdog Fantasy, y'all know what it is. Use the promo code ALLGAS for up to $1,000 in bonus cash on Underdog Fantasy. And right now through the 27th of October, you can boost your slips for up to 20%. All you got to do is log on, use the promo code ALLGAS, get your free money, and profit boost your slips. Thursday Night Football, NBA is back, 20% bump on any of those slips that you hit. So make sure you go over there, sign up, use the code ALLGAS. And if you're tapped into this channel, man, hey, here it is right here. The people who are subscribed to DD Fantasy Football, we got 76% of the people that watch this show are subscribed, but 24% of y'all are not. You're watching, you're taking the free advice, you're taking the entertainment, and you're not helping the channel grow. If you're here, if you're watching, if you support DD, if you support me, Jay Rich, Scott Connor, and the movement, hit that subscribe button as we watch this show. Jay, I think that's about all the housekeeping, man. How you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I was very excited for you last night. You know, your Lakers played well in the first half, got a big dub. I didn't stay up to watch the victory because, frankly, I had to get up early to prep for this show. But I thought they played pretty well. It was a decent start to the NBA season, but I think the news this week, especially today, is all about the trades that could happen, could not happen, and especially for us, catching people up and us talking about the news that happened on Monday, because there was some crucial injuries, some poor performances, and why are you under the desk hiding from me right now?
I had to fix something. Go ahead. I had to fix something, man.
That was incredibly distracting. I couldn't tell if you were doing it on purpose or you were doing it because you had to fix something. But yeah, lots going on in the NBA and NFL right now. And then the World Series on Friday. Very excited for that.
Yeah, World Series on Friday. I saw the tickets for that joint, man. Good God. I will not be attending.
Nothing for old GQ. $1,000?
Ridiculous. Nah, man, we don't got it like that over here, Jay. But we do have a lot of news to talk about, so let's get into it. Straight facts with Jay Rich right after this.
The biggest news in the world of sports, covered and brought to you by one man, Jordan Richards. This is Straight Facts.
All right, Ray, so as I mentioned, there is a lot to get to in the NFL, even just from Monday night, starting off with Tua Tagovailoa, who is going to be practicing this week. But you have here in the notes that he's not going to be wearing a Guardian cap. How do I feel about it? That's kind of a difficult conversation because ideally he would wear one, but maybe it impacts his vision, his ability to move his head, etc., etc. Hard to say why he wouldn't wear one, but I can respect his choice to wear one or not wear one. Now, in the unfortunate news, Chris Godwin is going to be out for the season and will undergo ankle surgery this week. He destroyed his ankle late in the game on Monday night against the Ravens. He's going to be out for the year, which sucks because I believe, Ray, right now, 3 of the top 4 leaders in receiving yards are currently injured in the NFL, which is just ridiculous. Mike Evans also expected to be out after re-injuring his hamstring after the Week 11 bye per head coach Todd Bowles. So you see here, he pulled up trying to catch a ball in the end zone, re-injured that hamstring, which we know is a big issue for wide receivers, especially with those re-injuries, and he's going to be out till at least week 12. Hopefully he's good to go after that. Now, Jaden Daniels is also very much in doubt, according to head coach Dan Quinn. He's considered week to week right now, but it seems unlikely he's going to be able to play against the Bears this week. Wanted to see Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels. Seems like they're going to be very cautious with their young quarterback, though, and so it seems unlikely he's going to play this week. But we will keep you updated throughout the week, especially on Friday as we get more practice reports. Another player who returned to practice was Puka Nacua. They opened his practice window for his 21 days, so he did get a limited practice in, but it was his first practice since week 1, so do not expect him to play this week, but could be available for next week. Now, Cooper Kupp, on the other hand, is expected to play on Thursday night against the Vikings, but there's also a lot of trade rumors right now about old Cooper Kupp. So we should see him on Thursday and potentially maybe even on the move. The Rams have said they're open to trading Cooper Kupp. They would be willing to take on some of the salary, but they are expecting a second-round pick in return. Jameson Williams was suspended for 2 games for substance abuse. So he's got the gambling suspension, he's got the substance abuse suspension, and he's got almost the trifecta when it comes to suspensions for just knuckleheads in the NFL. So you won't see him for 2 games. You have here in the news that, is there any credit to report that Gerard Mayo could be one and done in New England? Yeah, I would personally believe that.
I saw something yesterday, Jay, and I don't know if it was, if it was a legitimate source, but talking about unhappiness and second guessing the decision to hire Mayo from the jump. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, I mean, for people who didn't see it, Bill Belichick was very critical of Gerard Mayo calling his players soft. He said it on the Pat McAfee show. He said it on Tom Brady's podcast. And I think it's just when you're Robert Kraft and you had to obviously move on from Bill Belichick, hire Gerard Mayo, it's not going to be easy to hear a head coach of Bill Belichick's stature question the decision-making of your current head coach. And so I think it puts Kraft in a bad spot to where the team's underperforming. Are they developing Drake May? It's kind of to be seen right now. And the defense is significantly worse than it was last season. And Belichick kind of spelled it out. Number 1 rushing defense last year for the Patriots. And this year they're in the 20s. And it's basically the same team out there. The only difference is obviously the defensive coordinator coach, which is Bill Belichick, on to Gerard Mayo. Alvin Kamara also got a contract extension. Now, this is effectively to remove his cap hit for next season, and he gets practically $22 million in guaranteed. But they needed to do it so he didn't have a $25 million cap hit next year. and he returns to the team for next season. Everyone thought he could be on the move, potentially get cut or rework his contract elsewhere. It's going to be in New Orleans, it seems. Now, again, they could still trade him, but he's going to be on the roster for the foreseeable future through 2026 as it stands right now. Jameis Winston is set to start in Week 8. Nick Underhill also reported that Chris Olave should be available this week for the New Orleans Saints. And the biggest news that broke early this morning is the Chiefs traded a 5th-round pick that can get upgraded to a 4th for DeAndre Hopkins, Ray. A.J. Brown went to Philly and was successful. Derrick Henry went to Baltimore and was pretty successful. Now DeAndre Hopkins is gone from Will Levis and Mason Rudolph to Patrick Mahomes. We talked on Monday about how we're kind of avoiding all the pass catchers in Kansas City, but I think this might change the equation just a little bit. So Nuke Hopkins on his way to Kansas City. We'll see if he plays this week and how effective he will be. We did see Amari Cooper utilized in his first week in Buffalo. So hopefully we see a little bit from DeAndre Hopkins this week as well. And as you mentioned, LeBron James and Bronny James took the court last night as the first father-son duo to play on the same team in the NBA. And that was just a really cool sight to see. The moment they both checked in, it's just one of those things that we may never see it again, and it was history. So I hope everyone who's a fan of the NBA saw it. And then you have it in here, Rudy Gobert, 3 years, $110 million extension. I don't know if it's deserved, but Rudy is going to be in Minnesota for a long time, whether we like it or not. Ray, is there anything I missed or anything else you want to touch on?
A lot of news. Take it from the top with Godwin and Mike Evans both going down. Very unfortunate. It's just been a rough fantasy season. It's been a rough NFL season. Godwin absolutely smashing. Career year, plug and play, top 8 option for us on the week. He's gone. Mike Evans is also gone. I would caution people in thinking that Trey Palmer or Jalen McMillan are just going to step in and be Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. You look at the situation, if you had to ask me, it's probably going to be a lot of rushing, a lot of Cade Otton, and this offense is just going to look a lot different. You don't just replace Godwin and Mike Evans. Cooper Kupp trade rumors, that makes a lot of sense to me. If you're the Rams, you've got an almost 30-year-old or a 30-year-old wide receiver who's been injured like the last 3 seasons. This team, it'd be beneficial for them to try to move Cooper Kupp. If they can get a second for him, I think they'd be very ecstatic about something like that. And then DeAndre Hopkins, Jay, this is a trade that I wish happened like 2 years ago and not right now. Yep. When you look at Tennessee right now, and I'm actually pulling up the usage from Tennessee right now, it's pathetic. I mean, Hopkins is a 5.08 Trinity score as far as his usage. And on the season, that is yielding 6.38 fantasy points per game. In that offensive environment, it is just disgusting. Now, Nuke rolls into Kansas City, and you have to assume he fills in the Juju, / Rashee Rice role. He's still not a downfield target. That's not what Patrick Mahomes wants to do. You got to play him. I think you are plug and play right out the gate with DeAndre Hopkins if he's active. I think you are. I think you're plug and play, but I'm not expecting Rashee Rice, Tyreek Hill levels of production. I'm hoping I can get a rock solid wide receiver too that can give me some high end, maybe wide receiver 1 spike weeks here and there. But the expectation for me for DeAndre Hopkins on my roster is not top 10, top 12, top 15. I'm hoping I can get a solid wide receiver 2 usable asset that might be able to fall into the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, they have the Raiders this week. So your Raiders, we know they are definitely not a good defense. So if there was a time to kind of force targets his way, draw up some plays for him, they could easily do that against this Raiders team that I don't know if Mahomes has played them yet, but you remember in the offseason, there was that whole Patrick Mahomes like doll.
Kermit the Frog
I don't think he's played them yet. So that could be interesting to see if he wants to enact some revenge on the Raiders for that. But yeah, it's one of those things where this trade needed to happen. It's been talked about for a long time. Cooper Kupp was another player that was heavily rumored to the Chiefs, but the Chiefs needed them to take on more salary and didn't want to pay the compensation to get a player like Cooper Kupp. It's reported to be a second right now, very similar to like we saw for some of the other playmakers around the league. But Hopkins going to KC does make a lot of sense, and he finally gets a shot to chase a ring for real.
Yeah, and no one's blaming DeAndre Hopkins for Mason Rudolph or Will Levis, but I just think that we do this a lot. And Wake Up Chat, I'm pointing at y'all, the enthusiasm and hype over these moves, it's just it goes a little too far. It's still a completely new system that he has to learn. This has not been a good offense. Even if you brought Hopkins in last week with Juju, it's still not this type of offense that's yielding fantasy points across the board. It's a lot of Kareem Hunt, a lot of empty targets to Travis Kelce. Nuke is going to get his underneath, but it's still right now an offense that's tailor-made to win NFL games and not help you win fantasy football championships. Kansas City had to make a move because they legitimately had nobody else, Jay. They had nobody else. So they had to make a move. Good for them. I think this is a much better real-life trade than it is a fantasy football win. I think you'll get some fantasy football production out of Hopkins, but I think this is a bigger move for the Kansas City Chiefs' real NFL outlook, for them chasing their third straight Super Bowl, than it is us to get crazy excited about in fantasy and locking them in as some top-tier option. All right, we've got a lot. Mark said, don't start being realistic, Ray. My bad, Mark. What the hell am I doing? Apologies. Yes, wheels up, DeAndre Hopkins. Wheels freaking up. Let's go. Top 12 wide receiver on the week now. But we got a lot to get to, Jay. We're going through all the divisions. Some of our top just takeaways, whether that's data, whether that's film, things that we've seen, things that we've heard after the weekend slate of games. What division do you want to start with? You know you love you some NFC, so you want to start there?
Yeah, you know I love the NFC North, and they had a pretty good weekend as far as I'm concerned.
NFC North, let's go. We got the Packers, the Vikings, the Lions, and the Bears. So, Jay Rich, hit us with some of your top takeaways after diving into the data, the tape from these four teams.
So I will start with the Detroit Lions because they're still one of the hardest teams to figure out on a week-to-week basis. You know, we know that J-Mo's out for these next 2 weeks, and you have it here in the notes. Sam Laporta should be the guy, right, who steps up in this role, especially with Detroit having a pretty decent schedule as well. But maybe you can make the case for a player like Tim Patrick, you know, a player that I need to do very, very well because I have him outscoring Cortland Sutton on the season. But he is actually second in the Detroit Lions in Trinity score since week 4. Now, he wasn't there the entire season, but his Trinity score is surprisingly good. And I think when you look to last season, when J-Mo wasn't really performing, the player that really stepped up for this team was Josh Reynolds, who now, of course, is on the Denver Broncos. But I think it's interesting because you don't just have Sam Laporta who's struggling, and maybe Tim Patrick can get involved. The running game's been great, but Jared Goff is literally playing some of the best football he's ever played. More touchdowns than incompletions for the Detroit Lions, I believe, over the last 3 games. So you have a player that's playing at an extremely high level. Some of these playmakers have to step up. It hasn't been Jamison Williams. It hasn't been Laporta. It hasn't been Patrick. It can't be all Amon-Ra. Ray, who would you say has to be the guy? I'm not saying it's going to be Patrick, but I wouldn't be shocked either. You seem hell-bent on Laporta. I just haven't seen enough from Sam Laporta.
I just looked up the usage because I was like, Jay Rich's boy. You're right. I mean, since week 4, Tim Patrick has done more wide receiver stuff in that offense than J-Mo. Now, J-Mo significantly outscored him 7 points per game to 11.5 points per game for J-Mo because he's able to score touchdowns. But just usage-wise, Tim Patrick is involved. I think it's a sneaky little call there, but I do believe that with Jamison Williams being out, yes, there will be some extra targets that get funneled Tim Patrick's way, some extra targets that may go Khalif Raymond's way, but I don't think that the Lions are going to ask them to replace Jamison Williams. If anything, they got the Titans this week. I've already seen Amon-Ra St. Brown command 20 targets in a game. They'll just throw the ball to Amon-Ra, get the ball to Laporta. I think you'll see more usage out of Laporta and both of those running backs. But let's go through the teams because I'll just get to talking. So get through all of them, and then we'll talk about it at the end.
Okay, so the Minnesota Vikings, there's 2 things we have here. One, for me, it's TJ Hawkinson. He needs to be involved in this offense. This team is not good enough, clearly, as presently constructed, to even win the NFC North. And I think you can make the case against multiple teams in this division without a player like TJ Hawkinson being very good and helping Sam Darnold underneath. Now, there's also the conversation as to whether Sam Darnold's even the guy, because Jack Settleman yesterday saying that the LA Rams potentially could be looking to move Matthew Stafford and replace Sam Darnold. very interesting because Kevin O'Connell, obviously the former OC for the LA Rams. Now, the question, Ray, that I don't really remember, I should have looked it up, is whether there was actually that crossover where Stafford was the quarterback while O'Connell was the OC, because I don't believe that is the case. So feel free to vet that if you want to. But then in Green Bay, my easiest take, and I said this on Monday and I still believe it, Romeo Doubs is in the wide receiver 1 seat for Green Bay. We know what we get out of Jordan Love every week. It's amazing and it's awful all at once. But Doubs is going to be the guy going forward. You see that in the Trinity data. If you don't look up the Trinity data, make sure you go to DD Fantasy Football right now and check it out. Sign up if you're new or you haven't signed up yet. Get access to this information because it's going to show and highlight to you that, especially over the last few weeks, that Romeo Doubs is the clear number 1. And then there is the cluster of Christian Watson and Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks and all these players who are involved. And especially Jaden Reed heavily involved, but Doubs is still the clear guy, especially on the season, and even more so in the past few weeks overall. And last but not least, I want people to be aware, Caleb Williams, Ray, following week 10, has an extremely difficult schedule. So if you're banking on him in fantasy, definitely look at potentially some other options. He has Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, San Francisco, Minnesota, Detroit, and then Seattle to close out the season. So if my math is serving me well, that is 5 divisional games and the San Francisco 49ers from week 10 all the way to week 16. Caleb has been phenomenal, but he's also played a lot of bad teams. I don't want to take that away from him, but if he struggles, especially with games at Detroit, at San Francisco, at Minnesota, and home games with Green Bay, Minnesota, and Detroit, it's going to be difficult to see a lot of success from Caleb late in the season, and I think he might struggle a little bit down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Caleb. I'm not worried. I'm not worried about those matchups. If anything, those are all good offenses, which should yield Caleb Williams to stay in there and have to throw the ball. This offense has looked much better when they had all 3 or 5 of their options on the field, Swift, Kmet, and the 3 pass catchers. These are tough stretches for him, but these are the professionals, Jay, and what happens is you want to play well against good teams. You want to go out there and beat some of these teams that are viewed as these top teams in the NFL. So I think iron sharpens iron, and I really like what we've seen from Caleb Williams the past 2 weeks. I think the last 3 weeks, he's like number 1, number 2 in EPA per drop back, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL over that stretch. You can only play who your schedule puts you up against, but I really like what Caleb Williams and the Bears are doing. All right, Jay, I am up, and we are going to go to the AFC North and talk about the Ravens, the Bengals, the Browns, the Steelers, and this very interesting division with what looks like the 3rd MVP for Lamar Jackson en route. And we'll start with the Baltimore Ravens. Jay, it's one of those things where we sit back and we look at all the success that Rashad Bateman is having, and it's awesome. It is incredible what he's able to do when he's healthy, when he's on the field. Zay Flowers, he was banged up last game, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. He was in and out of the lineup, but don't get it twisted. Lamar had 5 touchdowns on Monday Night Football, but this is still a run-first team. You look at the volume that Bateman and Flowers are getting weekly on a consistent basis, and it's not consistent. It's a great offensive environment, and the Bateman find was an easy one to spot. I mean, he had been bubbling and bubbling. If you use the Trinity, the usage has been there. The fantasy points just did not follow. So then when you finally get the environment, the opportunity where all those things connect, boom, you get Rashad Bateman blow-up game. But it was 4 catches, Jay. I mean, it's 4, right? So it's not like he's getting 10, 11 opportunities a game. He's ultra efficient with them. But just be a little cautious of you could fire up all your Ravens pass catchers because they're not throwing the ball 35, 40 times a game, and they don't need to for good reason. Lamar and Derrick Henry getting it done on the ground. Cleveland, now that we know that Jameis Winston is starting, I'm backing off of what I have in the notes. All I have is the answer is David Njoku. I really don't have a lot of interest in anybody else on the Browns, but with Jameis Winston taking over and being named the starter, we'll see how this plays out. Jay, I mean, you've got Njoku there. Judy is going to be on the field, good or bad. He's going to be on the field. And then you've got the young second-year player, Cedric Tillman. I've also seen David Njoku's name circulating in some trade rumors. He's awesome. If there are some spots that need a tight end, David Njoku, Chief Njoku is the real deal. I would trade for him with confidence and hope that he can get out of there. At least Jameis Winston would be able to feed him and things. He looks good. Like, you look at the tape, he looks really good playing. Pittsburgh Steelers. And all I have is fool me once, shame on me.
Hater.
Fool me twice. You can't get fooled again, whatever it was that Bush said. You cannot get fooled again. I need more from Russ, Jay. I want to be in. I want to be in and excited and put George Pickens as a top 12 option on the week. I need another game. Yeah, I need another week. This week they play the Giants, so it should be another good matchup. So hopefully he'll be able to stack the positives that he did versus the Jets, carry those over to the Giants game, and as their schedule starts to increase in difficulty, some of these easy wins, those get-right games, those feel-good hopefully those things continue to carry over for Russell Wilson. But right now, even against the Giants, which they should exploit, Philly didn't have to do anything against them, I'm still treading with caution with Russell Wilson and the pass catchers for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then finally, with the Cincinnati Bengals, listen, T. Higgins has been on an absolute heater, third in Trinity score since week 4, only behind Malik Neighbors. Cincinnati is good. This offense is dope, and T. Higgins is playing like a guy that if Cincy doesn't want to pay him a bag, Jay, he's playing like somebody that's going to get serious money in the offseason and be a team's number 1 receiver. I know we've been wishy-washy on T. Higgins for a couple of years. Oh, he's not Chase. They use him as a wide receiver 2-3 in this offense. Do you think right now is an opportunity to buy T in Dynasty knowing or believing that he's going to be somewhere else operating as that team's number 1 wide receiver target in 2025?
I think there's a really good case to be made for T. Higgins right now. You know, you look at Joe Burrow and the way he's playing, and of course Joe Burrow is a massive part of T. Higgins' success. But at the end of the day, you look at this team and you say, well, Joe Burrow's not throwing the ball a ton anymore. His heater that he was on for a couple weeks is kind of over. They're just kind of working the ball down the field and winning games. But T. Higgins' production hasn't decreased. When you see a player like T. Higgins, who's, you know, the wide receiver 2, and that's kind of the narrative you have around T. Higgins and Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith, the difference is that he's still equaling the output of Jamar Chase right now. Maybe that's because Chase is seeing more double teams or whatever the case may be. But even though Burrow's not throwing the ball a lot, Higgins is still doing a lot. And especially compared to other wide receivers around the league, he's doing enough to deliver for fantasy. And so if you can say that in a lower volume role where he's not the clear 1, I think you could see much more upside in a new situation where maybe the quarterback isn't as good, but the volume increases and maybe offsets what could still be pretty solid wide receiver 2 production. I just don't think we're ever going to see wide receiver 1 from Higgins, which is why people don't want to buy.
Remember over the summer going into the season, there were a lot of reports about the Patriots being tied to T. Higgins. I mean, with the way that, and we'll talk about the AFC East in a little bit, but the way that Drake May is looking, it's kind of like, damn, I wish that would have happened. It would have been nice to see T. Higgins with Drake May. That could have been nice, and maybe we still get that at some point, hopefully with a new offensive coordinator not named Alex Van Pelt. All right, Jay Rich, you are up. We've gone through the AFC North, the NFC North, and you are up. The NFC South, baby. Take us south.
Yeah, the NFC South, everyone's favorite division in football, with some of the worst teams and some of the better teams getting even worse every single week. We will kick things off with the leaders, or I believe they're still the leaders, in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because
a lot of
they
chat
lost
about
their
the Bucs
two
in the chat, Jay. There's a lot. Joe and Jimbo are going McMillan crazy, beamed up for McMillan in the chat. So let's talk about the Bucs, man.
Yeah, so the Bucs have the Atlanta Falcons this week. For everyone who doesn't remember that big Thursday night shootout, I don't think we're going to see the same output that we saw last time these teams played in Week 8. I expect both teams to run a lot more. Now, the question about McMillan versus Trey Palmer versus Sterling Shepard, and then there's also the reports that they want to trade for Cooper Kupp, or they should trade for Cooper Kupp because Liam Cohen was an offensive coach for the Rams in multiple stints over the past 5 seasons. So he could easily slot into that Chris Godwin role, somewhat familiar to him, especially with the scheme and the offense. It could be a good fit. But if you're the Bucs, without these two players, are you really pushing all those chips in for a player like Cooper Kupp? It becomes more difficult because I don't think they have the offense to compete now, and the defense has kind of been good some weeks, bad other weeks, but I expect them to run the hell out of the ball. This is a team with 3 capable running backs. Yeah. We saw Rachaad White look great against the Baltimore Ravens after I disparaged him and the rest of the running backs saying they wouldn't be able to do anything against Baltimore. And they actually looked pretty good. So I think if Liam Cohen is smart, he leans on all three of these running backs, especially against Atlanta, which isn't a very good run defensive team. And I'm excited to see what that is. Now, talking about the receivers, I actually expect McMillan to see a lot of targets relative to what we would see from Trey Palmer. Trey Palmer is going to play in the slot, but if everyone who remembers, with Chris Godwin moving to the slot, it was McMillan who won the wide receiver 3 role out of camp, and I think they will only continue to build off of that while Mike Evans is out. I also like Cade Otton as well. He had 10 and 100 this past week. He'd been sort of building towards better performances week in and week out, but I think that Baker will need to rely on him and that chemistry that they already have. But I would be betting McMillan over Trey Palmer personally. Now, getting into Carolina, there's really nothing to say. This team is horrendous. They allow the most points in the NFL, but your boy, Ray, Ja'Tavion Sanders, continues to show that maybe he is a thing at the tight end position. Over the last 3 weeks, 6 targets, 7 targets, and 5 targets with 6 receptions, 5 receptions, and 3 receptions. Now, he did go over 49 plus yards in each of the last 2 games, and hopefully that can continue because that is the only bright spot right now for the Carolina Panthers. I don't even know if I feel like starting Deontay Johnson. I probably would, but it just doesn't feel like it's a safe bet right now with how bad this Carolina Panthers team. You pulled it up right here. The Trinity score for Ja'Tavion Sanders, 6.09, if I'm reading that correctly. Right behind, I would imagine, is Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, but it's not good. This is both below where they should be at, below the trend line. It's not good. Not a lot of usage, but JT Sanders clearly prioritized second in that offense. Andy Dalton was involved in an automobile accident with his family, I believe, yesterday as well. But I'm with you. I think JT Sanders is the real deal, Jay, for this team, at least now. And I don't know about Tampa Bay. I think everybody – here's the facts, Jay. If you're banking on Palmer or Sterling Shepard or Jalen McMillan, I don't give a damn about preseason winning the wide receiver 3 job. Like, what I care about is what Tampa Bay has actually asked them to do. And here go all 3 of those players. It's Sterling Shepard, it's Trey Palmer, and it's Jalen McMillan. All 3 of them lumped together in a shit range of usage. There is no trend. There's no indication of who it could be based on what Tampa Bay's actually done. We filtered this thing out the last 2 games. It's still nasty. Sterling Shepard actually did a little bit better. Trey Palmer a little better. Jalen McMillan, you're just guessing. There's no trend predictor. It's bad usage. If I were going to make a bet on anybody in Tampa Bay, it would be Cade Otton. It would just be the guy who, despite, even when Godwin and Evans were on the field, this is the player who they're trying to throw the ball to some degree, unlike those other pass catchers. So I think they're all those Tampa Bay wideouts. I wouldn't feel confident starting a single one of them this week. Not this week. I'll see how shit shakes out, but I'm not starting a single one of them this week.
Yeah, especially against the Falcons. If McMillan sees A.J. Terrell, then there could be some more opportunity for Trey Palmer simply because that matchup is not a favorable one. We will move on to New Orleans, though, where Alvin Kamara did sign an extension, so he will be on this team for the foreseeable future. And that means it is not going to be Kendre season anytime soon. I don't think anyone in this chat was banking on Kendre Miller, but it's definitely not going to be Kendre Miller's season anytime soon. There were some people pumping up that buy Kendre. There were some people pumping up that by Kendre Miller, man. So, yeah, let me see what the chat is talking about. Let me see what y'all are talking about in the chat. People just beamed up for who they think out of those Bucks. Yeah, of course. I mean, and I get it. I'm not poo-pooing on the excitement factor. I just think the reality is none of them have been used. None of them. So you could point to this, point to that. But what has happened is they haven't thrown the ball to any of them. Very, very infrequent targets for those guys. So I just would not want to depend on any one of the options. But somebody will emerge. There's going to be opportunity for somebody to step up. And shout out to Liam Cohen, who I had no clue where he was at prior to Tampa Bay. But just watching this Tampa Bay offense, how he deploys his receivers, the running schemes, like damn good offensive coordinator. Like feeling a lot better about Liam Cohen today than we are about Bobby Slowick potentially taking over a franchise and wrecking it from an offensive standpoint. We've got one more division we want to hit before we take a break, so we will quickly, Jay Rich, fly through the. We're gonna jig this around. We're gonna go AFC South. Let's get this one out of the way. We are not going to hold this and reserve the AFC South for after the break. We're gonna talk through the Texans,
the Colts, the Titans, and the Jaguars. Jay, get us started with Houston while I put the the timestamp on this thing.
All right, so Houston's interesting because you brought up Bobby Slowick and how bad this offense has been. And my only takeaway really for Houston is that CJ Stroud is streamable at best at quarterback right now and full-on benchable when Nico Collins is out. Now, Ray, I was going to ask you, rest of season, CJ Stroud or Caleb Williams?
Caleb.
CJ Stroud or Baker Mayfield, who now lost his top 2 wide receivers
CJ.
for a while.
CJ.
Okay.
CJ.
That was
CJ.
CJ Stroud or Dak Prescott, who are both averaging 15.1 fantasy points per game.
CJ.
CJ Stroud or Trevor Lawrence, who is coming on a lot stronger over the past few weeks. Really?
I'll
so you're CJ on all fronts.
Nico's back in what, 2 weeks, we think? 2 weeks, Nico's back?
I'd say at least Nico a week, back. Probably 2, yeah.
Yeah, Mixon is back. Nico comes back. I would take CJ Stroud. It hasn't been pretty, but I would still take Stroud over them. The only one would probably be Caleb.
Yeah, so for me, I would take all 4 of those quarterbacks ahead of CJ Stroud right now.
You take Baker right now, given his current environment, over Stroud with no way. No way, man.
I would take Baker because I think that Baker's just going to continue to get it done, and this team needs Baker to be really, really good.
So then you're in on the pass catchers. You're in on McMillan. You're in on Trey Paul. If Baker's going to get if Baker's going to get it done to the degree in which he's been getting it done, one of them guys are about to be elite.
Not been getting it done, but I think he will continue to spread the ball. He'll still throw the ball a lot and be effective for fantasy, and we know he has a bit of a rushing floor over the past few weeks as well, and maybe that increases. Dak Prescott, I fully expect to take a leap outside of the bye. They were great outside of the bye last year, and I think they can continue to do that. Trevor Lawrence, we will get to the Jaguars and why I love Trevor Lawrence right now as a bye. After their bye, which I believe is week 11, Houston, Tennessee, the Jets, the Raiders, and Tennessee to close out the year. 2 matchups against Tennessee, 1 against Houston, the Jets, and then, of course, the awful Raiders. Since week 4, he's 5th in EPA per dropback and completing 70% of his passes while being number 1 he's 5th in success rate as well. Only Lamar Jackson and Caleb Williams are better. So Trevor Lawrence has been bad, but he is improving and getting better. The one stat about the Titans I will mention is that they have allowed the fewest yards per game in the league, and in the past 4 weeks, they are 2nd best in rushing EPA per play. And then last but not least, the Indianapolis Colts, Ray. I'm just not there on A-Rich. I know you want to believe he's going to be better. Houston, Minnesota, Buffalo, the Jets, and Detroit. 0 interest in A-Rich or any of the pass catchers going forward. He's been dreadful. 52% completion percentage, which is 45th in the NFL among quarterbacks with 25-plus snaps, and minus 11.3 in CPOE, which is 44th. He throws the ball downfield a lot, but he's still not completing enough passes to where he's going to be usable for fantasy football. He can run the ball, but I still don't want to start him week in and week out.
Yeah, the AFC South is nasty. Jacksonville, you talked about T-Law. Tank Bigsby's a real thing. Like, Tank Bigsby is a real thing. They used him to salt the game away last week. Tennessee, Tony Pollard is about all I've got interest in. We're talking about Indy. It's Tony Pollard and nobody else. No, thank you. Calvin Ridley, I'm good. I don't want any of that offensive environment right now outside of Tony Pollard. Texans just need to get it together. They need Nico Collins back. And yeah, you cannot start anybody, especially the pass catchers in Indianapolis, not right now. You just can't do it. Jonathan Taylor comes back. We'll see how that looks, but you cannot fool around with Indy right now. It's just, it's too volatile. It's too shitty. It's just not worth it. All right, we're going to take a little break. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like the show. We talked about all the people who watch, who are subscribed. We thank you for being here. But if you're not, hit that button and we'll be right back and we'll wrap out the rest of the divisions and get you out of here. Appreciate y'all tapping in with the Wake Up with Jay and Ray. I went Jay this time. Jay and Ray, Ray and Jay. We appreciate you all being here. Make sure you tap into all the content on the DD Fantasy Football channel. Dynasty Theory dropped the show yesterday. John, Mitch, and Dan. These young men are doing a fantastic job over here on the channel, so show them love. Talking through dynasty strategy, buying or selling Brandon Ayuk. I saw a couple of trades. Brandon Ayuk in a first for George Pickens. I saw that was a big one that happened yesterday over on Dynasty Daddy. And if you did miss it, I did a 2025 NFL mock draft breakdown from my friend Jordan Reed from ESPN. He dropped the mock right before week 8 of college football. And on Monday, mock draft Mondays, I decided to take a look at it and talk through the players, the landing spots. Make sure you check out that content. And all of you who are watching the show, streaming live or on replay, again, we know how many of y'all are subscribed to the channel. We see it, 76% of y'all who are watching are subscribed, but that leaves 24% of you who are not. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. It helps Jay and I grow, helps us be able to provide more and give y'all all that communal shit that you love. 10 shows in 7 days in our Discord. Go to ddfantasyfootball.com and join the squad. Best fantasy football community on the planet. Jay, let's get into the AFC West. AFC West and talk about DeAndre Hopkins and how that's going to fit in with Patrick Mahomes, the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Denver Broncos. And yes, in the notes, Jay Rich, in the notes, I do not invest in any pass catcher from the Kansas City Chiefs, but that was prior to the trade of DeAndre Hopkins. So let's just focus in on that. Again, my thoughts about Hopkins in Kansas City, they want the three-peat. They're 6-0. They're the best team in the NFL. They've got a strong defense, and they know how to win ugly games. I feel like Mahomes, he kind of needs one of these wins, one of these type of championships on the resume, Jay, where he doesn't have Tyreek Hill, where it all looks disgusting, where they're just kind of piecing it together. He's not at his greatest, but somehow he's just 2001 Tom Brady in this thing all the way to the Lombardi Trophy. I think Hopkins is a much better real-life fit than he's going to be a fantasy asset for us. I think it's ground and pound. And when Isaiah Pacheco comes back, it's going to be Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, I've got him locked and loaded as a top 10 running back on the week. I'm in on the backfield. I love the fit from a scheme and team perspective, but I'm not as bullish. I'll probably be a lot lower than consensus around the fantasy community on DeAndre Hopkins' fantasy outlook in Kansas City. Now, the Raiders and Brock Bowers. What he's doing, Jay, it's not just like really good for a rookie. I mean, it's historic. I believe he is tracking and on pace to surpass Puka Nakua's rookie reception record. What? I mean, this is the player that it's like porn. You know it when you see it. And this is why coming out of the draft, I didn't care where he went. This was a guy you invest in. They're using him outside. They split him out in the slot. He's running wide receiver routes. Brock Bowers, awesome. And if we had to redo, quickly, Jay Rich, we had to redo rookie drafts right now, today, who are the top 5 picks, 2024 rookie draft, top 5 picks. Who are they? Let's go non-super flex so we can go skill position players, top 5, redoing the rookie class right now. What's it look like?
Man, I feel like I'm going to forget somebody. Is there any running backs that are viable? I'm thinking Malik Neighbors would be one.
Neighbors is
the
one.
Question is BTJ or Marv? Because I still think I lean BTJ right now. Like Marv, again, didn't look good.
Give me your 5.
I would say Neighbors, then BTJ, then Bowers, then Marv, and then, yeah, Brooks is the RB1, and I wouldn't even take him. Then after that, who? Maybe Xavier Worthy?
I am going Neighbors Bowers 1-2. I'm taking Bowers over. I'm going Neighbors Bowers. The positional advantage, like he is. I'm not going Kelsey. We're not doing that, but he's the positional advantage. I would go Neighbors, Bowers, Brian Thomas, Marv, and I'm still very much in on Rome Odunze. You watch the tape.
Yeah.
Keenan Allen is done after this year. It's not going to be good, but these were my expectations, right? Level setting and having appropriate expectations from the rip. I never thought Odunze was going to be this big-time fantasy producer this year. They'll dump Keenan Allen next year, and I'm all in Rome Odunze in 2025. Sorry, got to get through the rest of the AFC West. The Los Angeles Chargers. Will Dissly, likely good enough to stream at the tight end position. We saw him get targeted a lot. This offense is just stank, Jay. It's stank. It's nasty. Justin Herbert had 300 plus passing yards, and it did not feel like it. Go look at the names of players who caught the ball for the Chargers. For me, watching Ladd McConkey, I think he's going to be a really good number 2. They need somebody. They need a guy. I think he will be a very good number 2, and in the right environment, right season, he can be a 100 reception type guy. But they need a real outside go get it wide receiver, and I think they prioritize that next year. And then with the Denver Broncos, Javonte Williams has been getting it going. I've been very pleased with Javonte Williams. And do you know who he plays this week? The Carolina Panthers. I have Javonte Williams as a top 12 option on the week. Let's ride. That defense is the worst in NFL history through 7 games. Javonte Williams has a nice bounce back opportunity just to continue his good rushing trends against the Carolina Panthers this week. Anything else from you, Jay, in the AFC West?
No, I'll just add on that of healthy receivers, pass catchers right now, Brock Bowers is number 1 in receptions. He's only behind Chris Godwin, who has 50. Brock Bowers has 47. Next closest are Garrett Wilson and Drake London with 46 and 44. But yeah, you brought up the Javonte Williams stuff, 60 yards in 3 of his last 4 games, and Denver has the highest rushing success rate in the NFL since week 4. Part of that is because of Bo Nix, but also because of Javonte Williams.
I said in the chat, so I'm in the kitchen cooking, right? I'm in the kitchen cooking, and the games are on. And I thought somebody was punking me, man. I heard Rager with the bomb, deep catch. Rager fumbled the ball, Jay. I didn't even know he was still in the league. Caught a long ball. They called it. I'm like, there's somebody punking me. No, he's on the Chargers. But yeah, we don't want him. And Jimbo says Troy Franklin, a big buy. Ain't it?
He's definitely getting opportunity. I don't know if I'm there yet, but he's been getting opportunity, and it's the chemistry with Bo Nix. Bo Nix actually trusts him down the field, and it shows because he actually throws him the ball down the field. I don't know if I'm there yet, but it's definitely interesting to see what we're seeing from Franklin because we expected nothing, and we're getting a little bit of production now at this point.
All right, Jay, let's head to the NFC East and talk about those 4 teams in that division.
Yeah, I mean, this division, man, without Washington, it's really, really disgusting because Dallas is awful. But as I mentioned already about Dak Prescott, I think this team's going to look a lot better out of the bye. It doesn't mean that they're going to be a winning football team, but I think offensively they will have a much better understanding of what they need to do to win football games and put up points, and Dak Prescott obviously is a massive part of that. I think the defense is going to be awful. Maybe we get Micah Parsons back this week. Jerry Jones was saying that there is a possibility he could return, but it does seem unlikely. But offensively, we need to see CeeDee Lamb be great, and we need to see Dak Prescott be great, and maybe some semblance of a rushing game at all. But against the 49ers this week, it's going to be very, very tough. But hopefully we see something from Dallas. I think out of the bye, they play much, much better. So expect them to play better, and I would be starting Dak this week, even against the 49ers. Now, in terms of Philly, there's almost nothing to say about Philly other than A.J. Brown is the literal GOAT of the Trinity score. He is number 1 in Trinity score on the season. He is probably the most quarterback-proof receiver in the league, it seems like right now. Jalen Hurts is not playing good football and hasn't pretty much the entire season, but A.J. Brown continues to get it done. It kind of reminds me, Ray, of when he was in Tennessee and he was this efficiency monster on low volume and inefficient targets. You say, stop, but that's kind of how it's playing out right now. In terms of the Giants, we want to see how Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary continue to split reps because we're hoping Tracy gets more opportunities, but maybe they continue to split reps going forward, so we'll have to monitor that situation. And then in Washington, if we do get Mariota, one, how does he play against this Bears defense? And can we see some cheap production out of Zach Ertz, who should see a lot of targets short and intermediate, and especially from a player like Mariota, who has hyper-targeted the tight end in the past. Ertz could be a favorite from him and could provide some pretty good value going forward if JD5 is out.
Yeah, and to that cheap production, you did see Jaden Daniels really target him, especially in the Baltimore game when they were trying to come back. It was like, let's find Zach Ertz, let's get the ball to our big tight end. I don't have any expectations for Dallas either. I think defensively, without Parsons and Tank Lawrence, they also didn't have Eric Kendricks at linebacker, still trying to get Deron Bland back from his injury. Yep. I'm just hoping to see a more inspired Dallas Cowboys team. I've got low expectation. Don't know if they can run the ball and really don't know what's happening at that wide receiver 2 spot. And for the Philadelphia Eagles, A.J. Brown is probably I don't know where he's ranked in Dynasty, but he probably should be like 1 or 2. He's just that, he's that good.
High.
And because he's his age, people are like, well, we're not going to have him for as long as Jeffrey. He's 8. There's no way there's 7 receivers that I'd prefer in Dynasty over A.J. Brown. Not a chance. Not a
Justin
chance.
Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Nico Collins.
Yeah, I at least I'm Nico Truther 101, but I'm taking A.J. Brown over Marv. I'm taking him over Nico. I think you can make an argument in a case. If you're talking about how they're playing now, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown or CeeDee Lamb right now.
A.J. Brown.
For me, it's A.J. Brown. And I love CeeDee Lamb. I love A.J. Brown. I love CeeDee Lamb. All right, Jay, let's move on to the final 2 divisions that we have on tap, and we'll go to the AFC and talk about the AFC East. The AFC East trying to make some noise now. We got Tua potentially back. Do we know if he's officially back or not, Jay?
Not official, no. We won't know until later in the week whether he's going to play or not, but he's got to practice all week, and then we'll see from there. But, yeah, we should have word on Friday.
Yeah, we've been saying it on the show for the past 2 weeks. I hope you took the opportunity to go get some Dolphins. Jalen Waddle has been non-existent since Tua got hurt. Tyreek Hill, non-existent since Tua got hurt. Running game, in and out with Mostert and Achane. That offensive environment is going to completely flip, turnover. So if you're in leagues where league mates aren't as tapped in, they're not paying attention, I do think maybe you still have an opportunity to get somebody before Sunday, or even if Tua doesn't play, that could also provide, they're like, oh, he's going to come back week 9. You might be able to get you a Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle down the stretch. This environment changes. Enjoy Tua when you have him, and hopefully we do not see him suffer another concussion coming back, not wearing the Guardian cap. Buffalo, I'm still very intrigued by Keon Coleman. I understand that he had the big, long play in that game, but what you saw with the addition of Amari Cooper was very clear that it was Cooper, Coleman, and Kincaid, and then Khalil Shakir took a little bit of a step back as far as usage. Now, he still scored well because you got a great quarterback in Josh Allen, but Amari Cooper stepped right into the role, and he was prioritized more than anybody else. Keon Coleman is still involved on a week-to-week basis, and the more we continue, it's funny, right? We spend so much time looking at the players who aren't producing, what Marv isn't doing, what Xavier Worthy is not doing, what Rome Odunze isn't doing, Jalen Polk isn't doing that. And then you've got rookies like a Keon Coleman, who, despite the fact that right now, Jay, you cannot say that he's been a consistent starting fantasy asset, but he's consistently on the field. He's consistently getting opportunity from Josh Allen in a great offensive environment. But nobody's really, I don't know about Keon. It's kind of fluky. I don't know. But Marv, load him up as a top 5 receiver on the week. I just think that don't ignore some very encouraging and positive signals coming out of Buffalo around this player. And I do think, to a lesser degree, and it's so crazy, the parallels of this one, Jay. I just thought of this. Bills traded for Amari Cooper, right? Bills, for the first 6 weeks of the season, they thought that they can roll out a rookie wide receiver and Khalil Shakir and get it done. And they were like, we need to go get a guy. This is very reminiscent of when Amari Cooper was traded to the Dallas Cowboys, because the Dallas Cowboys were rolling out Michael Gallup. He was a 3rd-round rookie out of Colorado State. And they were like, we've got Gallup and some ancillary pieces. We'll be able to make it work. About 3-4 weeks into the season, Cowboys were like, nah. Gallup needs to be in a complimentary role. Go get Amari Cooper. So it's very interesting that Cooper came in to kind of help save the pass-catching room of the Dallas Cowboys some years ago. Same thing is happening here. And you move Keon Coleman out of this role where he was operating as a pseudo one, and you put him in a complimentary role. You might see some better producing days for Keon Coleman. And I'll just say this about Dalton Kincaid. Starting to wonder, is he a little bit of fool's gold? Like, good tight end, but not Kelsey reincarnated. The New England Patriots, if you can't buy Jaden Daniels 5 or Caleb Williams, it's okay. If you can't buy JD 5 or Caleb Williams, it's okay. Go get Drake May. He's a dude. Drake May is good. And if Mayo's gone, let's just say it goes off the rails, they can the whole shit. Like I would actually be excited for the OC and the head coach that comes in, because I believe that Kraft would make it a priority that pick works in tandem with May. Like he's over 65% completion percentage and back-to-back starts. The whole team looks, at least the offense looks a lot more competent with Drake May. If I couldn't get Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams, I would really, really be trying to acquire Drake May in Dynasty. And finally, the New York Jets. All I have to say is Aaron Rodgers is going to wreck this team and leave, isn't he? This is about to be, he is about to screw this thing up and dipset from the Jets. I don't know what they do, because you can't hire a patsy head coach, a yes man head coach for one more season of Aaron Rodgers. They probably need to take a quarterback to build for the future. But with Rodgers pulling the strings, calling the plays, this is just not going to end well for the Jets. Jay, anything you want to say about the AFC East?
No, I think you hit all the points, as few as there are for this team. But yeah, getting Amari Cooper was massive, and you didn't mention, so I will quickly point it out, Josh Allen had his first 300-yard game of the season. The moment they get Amari Cooper, and I believe he only played like 35% of snaps, so it shows an impact a top receiver can make on a team, not just for him and for the quarterback, but for the other pass catchers as well. And then the other point I want to bring up is that Miami has to go into Buffalo in 2 weeks. So Tua will have to play against Josh Allen in Buffalo. So if he doesn't play this week, hopefully he does, just to kind of build that confidence, get those reps, because the next week they will be heading into Buffalo, where he has historically really struggled. But I think we can go to the last division now in the NFC West. This division has been a bit of a shit show all year long, but I will start with the Arizona Cardinals, because we need to have a conversation about Kyler Murray, Ray. As much as I love Kyler Murray, and I think he can be a great quarterback and even a great fantasy quarterback, he's QB 10 right now, but it always seems like he's just not doing enough to really win you weeks. And he gets a little bit of rushing yards. He might throw a touchdown here or there, but it's just never enough. And this team is so bad, and the offense is so poor, that I just can't imagine that we should still be recommending to people to go out and start Kyler Murray every single week and to roster him on their dynasty teams. I'm bringing up quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence, who I know everyone's going to say, why would you take Trevor Lawrence over Kyler Murray? I think there could be an ascension for Trevor Lawrence, especially this season. Jared Goff, of course, the way he's playing, I'd be surprised if you could even trade Kyler Murray straight up for Jared Goff. Even Anthony Richardson, as bad as things may get for A-Rich, trading a player like Kyler Murray, who very soon is going to fall out of favor in the community if he doesn't start to play well, I would consider making a move like that. Dak Prescott, if you want to win, trade Kyler Murray for Dak Prescott. I think he's going to have a great second half. And Tua Tagovailoa, who is coming back, even though he is injured, even though he has a concussion, I would still consider making a move like that in a down tier, because the production you get out of Tua could easily outproduce one Kyler Murray. Now, moving on to the Rams, I think we do see a sell-off for this team. They're probably going to get blown out by Minnesota. Does that mean Matthew Stafford leaves? Probably not, but it seems like trading Cooper Kupp would be a very good decision for them, especially if they can net a second or multiple third, fourth round picks for a player like Cooper Kupp, who's hardly played for them over the last 2 seasons. We brought up Chris Godwin's role in the Tampa Bay offense as a great fit for Cooper Kupp for familiarity purposes and offensive scheme purposes. This, in terms of Seattle, Ray, we do expect Jackson Smith-Njigba to see an increased workload, but do not sleep on Jake Bobo. DK Metcalf missed 1 game last season, and Jake Bobo was second on the team in receiving with 4 receptions, 5 targets, 61 yards, and a touchdown. So in some of your best ball leagues, look to pick up Jake Bobo, because this week it seems like DK Metcalf is not going to be playing, and I'd be not surprised if Bobo delivered a pretty decent performance, because he has seen some opportunities when Metcalf has missed time. And in terms of San Francisco, just get healthy. Please get healthy, because Brock Purdy has actually been usable for fantasy, even though he's been playing this roulette wheel with all of his pass catchers. He's still got it done. I still believe in him as the QB 12 right now, or QB 11 right now in Dynasty. I still like him long-term, still like him short-term. I just think that this team is in shambles and they need to get their players healthy. But outside of that, there's nothing else to say with the 49ers. They've disappointed. They're not playing well. They need to get their pass catchers healthy. But in terms of Arizona, I don't think they have a Marvin Harrison problem. I think they have a Kyler Murray problem. And unfortunately, that problem doesn't seem like it's going to change.
Yeah, this is a really good one, and it is an interesting division. So let's start with San Francisco. I'm with you. They need to get healthy. My walking away from week 7, here's where my thought and head was with San Francisco is if they don't get it together, does Christian McCaffrey even come back?
Yeah.
Like, does he, if they're losing and they're out of it, they're already banged up. Debo Samuel looks like he's gained like 30 pounds. I saw some picture of him. Does CMC even come back and play, or do they finish out the season and just regroup and try to retool for 25? Seattle, I don't know. The workload with these pass catchers, I think it's going to be a big Kenneth Walker week. He's my RB1 on the week. Kenneth Walker in this matchup, I think he should absolutely feast.
Smash.
So I think it's going to be a Kenneth Walker week. Rams should 100% sell off. I'm with you on that one. I think Cooper Kupp would be a great fit in Tampa Bay. That'd be awesome for Baker Mayfield. And I think that would also keep Mike Evans very much in the fold because Evans and Kupp do two different things. So Evans comes back. He's your deep play threat. You put Kupp in. He is your one-for-one Chris Godwin replacement. And then Arizona. And I'm reading the chat, and I think this is a conversation where real football and fantasy sort of is like oil and vinegar because Kyler Murray is absolutely he's gotten it done for us for fantasy. He's QB 12 on the season. He just put up 20 points this week versus the Chargers. I think what the problem is I think both things can be true. He is getting it done for us from fantasy, but yards per attempt, he's in the bottom quadrant of the NFL. He does not push the ball downfield, and I'm not going to deal in the drops because I can go through every goddamn quarterback of all 32 and pinpoint drops each and every week. But what is like actual factual happening is he's not pushing the ball downfield. But when you do look at his EPA per dropback, he's still 14th in the NFL. He's still 14th in the league, EPA per dropback. A lot of that is done on the ground, and it's carried with his legs. And as you're looking at Kyler Murray and just what he does, how he wins, how he scores points, the weeks in which he was a top quarterback, 59 rushing touchdowns in that matchup. He had 3 passing TDs. That's his highest TD output from a passing standpoint all season, but he's running the ball, 83 yards and a touchdown, QB5 on the week, 64 yards and a touchdown, 21 points on the week. He's going to be a top 8 quarterback on the week. But relying on Kyler Murray, the thrower of the football, he has not been very good throwing the ball. That's just it. That is what it is. He is not, but that's always been his calling card. Every year, Jay, at the beginning of the season, we look at Kyler Murray's season-long props, always under 4,000 yards. And we're just like, he should be able to get that. That's Stafford's doing that in his sleep. Bryce Young's projected for 3,800 easily. Kyler, but this is sort of who he's been. And he's a good fantasy quarterback, but real life-wise, watch the game. A lot of people just pop up at the end of the day, look at the box score, look at the fantasy points. Oh, he was awesome. He was fine. He's not. He's not playing good quarterback in the NFL. He's getting it done from fantasy, so that's all we care about. But it's not just Marv. A lot of that is Kyler's got to be better. They're not pushing the ball downfield at all. So those plays where Marv is running wide asshole open down the field don't even matter because he's not throwing them. They're not asking him to do it. He's not confident. The line isn't protecting. It's not an all Kyler Murray problem. I think it's an Arizona offense problem. The Arizona offense, in my opinion, and I've talked about this on Josh and Hayden's channel for the past 2 weeks, that their offense looks a mess. It's James Conner and pray. It's a mess. So I'm not going to put all that blame on Kyler. He should shoulder some of that. The O-line should shoulder some. Marv's got his fair share of things that he needs to work on. But ultimately, whoever the hell is running that offense, there's zero identity. There's no flow. And this is what you get. You get some good fantasy finishes when he runs around. This type of production, Jay, this kind of stat line, 145-1, 64-1, 195-1, 83-1. You know who we want this, who we're talking about Kyler in a critical way or talking through some of the shortcomings because everybody has them. But this is who you pray Anthony Richardson turns into. If he can be QB 14 and have those weeks where he's QB 25 on a week, but he can give you 83 and 9 the next week and be QB 5, this is probably what you hope A Rich can turn into, and that's Kyler Murray. So I'm not as bearish on him as you, but I'm very down on the Arizona offense, which he's a part of, and he's the quarterback, so he's going to get a lot of blame. I think the Arizona offense is the problem with everything. It's pray that James Conner can bail you out, breaking 1 million tackles and scoring a touchdown. Anything else from the AFC West?
No, I think that's it. Everyone wants to talk about Kyler, and I understand the rushing side of things, but this is a team that's only put up 17 points in 4 of their last 5 games, and that's going to be a problem for this ultimate upside. He's playing against the Dolphins, who have allowed the lowest EPA per drop back in the NFL over the past 3 weeks. He's playing against the Bears. He's playing against the Jets. He's playing against the Hawks, the Vikings, the Hawks again. Like, where do you see these fantasy points coming from against these better defenses? Everyone talks to the performance against the Rams. The Rams is the worst defense in the league. So, like, yeah, he beat up on some bad teams, but he's not getting it done in even some of these neutral matchups. So when they get tougher, he could struggle a little bit. So this is just how Dynasty goes. Like, you can't be a top quarterback forever, especially when you're delivering in such an unorthodox fashion. And Patrick said in the chat, he's kind of playing like Justin Fields did and just getting it done with his rushing. And while we like that for fantasy, we've seen it not be sustainable, and you can quickly fall out of favor in the community because you don't get it done as a passer. And that's the biggest problem with Kyler. But the rest of the NFC West,
here's the thing.
Bit of a dumpster fire.
It ain't just us saying this. So clearly there are people out there in the fantasy community talking about his play and talking about how they wish he would be better. And that's why we are discussing it. And I think this is an interesting conversation. And I'm talking about everything. In this whole, it's all fantasy. Half of the shit, the metrics that you look at, that you study, that we cite, they're real football metrics, but we're talking about them from fantasy. The hell, EPA, that's a team-based metric. That's football, but we reference it all the time in fantasy. So he has not been throwing the ball good. I don't give a shit what anybody says. He has not thrown the ball well. He could be better as a passer, and he's still delivering for us in fantasy football. They're not mutually exclusive. Both things can be true, and if Kyler improves in the passing regard, if this offense takes a step forward and being able to find Trey McBride, get the ball to Marv, get the ball to Michael Wilson, he'll be even better for us in fantasy football. It's okay to recognize that. Doesn't mean it's bad or anybody's knocking Kyler. Play freaking better, and he'll be even better for us in this game that we play, which is fantasy football. But that is the show. 8 divisions, all 32 teams, and a bunch of takeaways, thoughts from week 7 as we roll into week 8. One more time for the one time, all my good people in the building. Make sure you go to Underdog Fantasy. Get one of these, covering up Jay Rich. You get a profit boost, 20% boost on the slips that you hit when you use the promo code ALLGAS, and you get that $1,000 in bonus cash money. Dynasty Theory, make sure you check out those guys on the channel, talking through some strategy, buy and sell, Brandon Ayuk amongst a bunch of other players. And a 2025 NFL mock draft. My boy Jordan Reed from ESPN dropped the mock. I had to talk about it. Mock Draft Monday on the channel. Jay Rich, hit the music, baby. Hit the music. Make sure you pull up later today. I got my top 47 running backs with Josh Norris on Josh and Hayden's fantasy channel over on YouTube. I think my time over there is coming to an end. Old Hayden Winks getting tired of that baby at home. Jay said, I got to get back to work. Damn 4-week-old, I gotta get out the house. GQ,
had enough.
Give me my seat back. So make sure you pull up. Check me out over there on Josh and Hayden's channel. Jay Rich and I, y'all know we work with Bleacher Report, so y'all gotta pull up every Tuesday, and then we got some more shows Thursday and Friday. Bleacher Report national streams we want y'all to pull up to. We appreciate each and every eye, each and every ear in the building. It's a dope community, man. We love y'all all, even if we disagree on how good or bad Kyler Murray is playing right now in the 2024 NFL season. It's much love. It's all gas. It's all the time. Join the squad. We out of here. See y'all on Friday. Go Lakers. 1-0, Jay Rich. NBA opening day. We're going to win the chip this year, big dog. We winning the chip. See y'all on Friday. We out. Peace.